before you took your first breath, before your heart beat for the first time. Something about your life was already known in heaven. Not guessed, not imagined, known. The Bible gives a breathtaking glimpse of this mystery in Psalm 139. David says that all the days ordained for him were written in God's book before one of them came to be. That means your life did not begin as an accident. It began as intention. Before anyone on earth knew your name, God already knew your story. And that raises a question most believers rarely stop to ask. If God wrote your days before they unfolded, if He knew your calling before you entered the world, then what else was prepared before your birth? Could heaven have already arranged protection for the journey you had not yet begun? Many Christians believe in guardian angels in a general way. They picture a comforting presence nearby, a quiet protector moving through unseen moments. But most people never ask the deeper question. If Scripture teaches that angels are sent by God, then why was a particular angel assigned to a particular person? Why that angel for you? Why your life? Why your birth date? Those questions sound mysterious, but they are not foolish. They rise from a serious biblical truth. Hebrews chapter 1, verse 14 says that angels are ministering spirits sent out to serve those who will inherit salvation. Notice that word sent. Angels are not independent agents making random choices. They are deployed by God. They move under divine command. Their assignments are not casual. They are purposeful. That means if you have a guardian angel, and Scripture strongly suggests that believers do, then that guardian was not assigned by coincidence. There was intention behind it. Today, we are going to explore 3 questions that take us to the heart of this mystery. First, what exactly is a guardian angel according to Scripture? Second, when does God make that assignment? And third, what might explain the connection between your life, your purpose, and the angel sent to watch over you? To answer those questions, we will walk through the words of Jesus, the testimony of the Psalms, and the wider Christian tradition that has tried to understand these truths with humility. Some of what we discover will be clear and biblical. Some of it will belong to tradition rather than doctrine, and we will make that distinction carefully. But at the center of all of it is one unforgettable truth. You are not random, you are not unseen, and you are not moving through this life without heaven's attention. Long before your birthday was circled on a calendar, long before anyone held you in their arms, God had already looked upon your unformed life with knowledge, purpose, and care. And if that is true, then your birth date may not simply mark the day you arrived on earth. It may mark the moment a story written in heaven stepped into time, with divine protection already standing beside it. To understand why a guardian angel might be assigned to someone, we need to begin with a basic question. What is an angel? The word itself is revealing. In Hebrew, the word is malach. In Greek, it is angelos. Both words mean messenger. That matters because angel is not mainly a description of what these beings look like. It is a description of what they do. They are created spiritual beings who carry out the will of God. Scripture never presents angels as sentimental decorations floating through the clouds. They are not soft symbols of comfort detached from divine authority. They are servants of God, active in revelation, protection, judgment, and guidance. They move with purpose because they are sent with purpose. Hebrews chapter 1 verse 14 describes them as ministering spirits sent out to serve those who will inherit salvation. That verse alone tells us something profound. Angels are not self-appointed, they are sent. Their mission begins in the will of God, not in their own preference. Jesus gives even stronger support for personal angelic care in Matthew chapter 18 verse 10. Speaking about little ones, he says, "Their angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven." Those 2 words, their angels, are striking. Jesus does not speak in vague generalities. He speaks as if there is a real and meaningful connection between certain believers and certain angels. The image becomes even more powerful when he says these angels see the Father's face. In the ancient world, direct access to a king's presence belonged to trusted servants close to the throne. So, Jesus presents guardian angels not as distant observers, but as attendants with immediate access to God, ready to receive direction concerning those entrusted to their care. Psalm 91 adds another layer. God will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. The language is personal, not merely a nation, not merely a crowd. You. Even the early church seems to reflect this belief. In Acts chapter 12, when Peter appears after escaping prison, some say it is his angel. That response suggests they were already familiar with the idea of personal angelic guardianship. So Scripture gives a sober but beautiful picture. A guardian angel is not a toy of religious imagination. It is a real servant of God, commissioned for the good of those who belong to him. And if that servant is commissioned, then the next question matters deeply. When was that assignment made? The strongest biblical foundation for this mystery comes from Psalm 139. David says that God formed his inward parts, knit him together in his mother's womb, saw his unformed substance, and wrote all his days in a book before one of them came to be. That language is astonishing. It means your life was not first known at birth. It was known before birth. Before your body took shape, before your family heard your cry, before your first morning on earth, God already saw the whole pattern of your existence. Jeremiah receives a similar word from God. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. This is not casual awareness. It is intimate, purposeful knowledge. God does not merely foresee lives from a distance. He knows them personally and appoints them meaningfully. If that is true, then the idea that God's care begins only after birth becomes too small. Scripture points to a God whose attention reaches into the womb and beyond it. His purpose is older than your first breath. That matters when we think about guardian angels. If angels are sent according to God's purpose, and if God knew your purpose before you were born, then it is reasonable to believe that heaven's provision for your life also preceded your arrival in the world. Your angel was not scrambling to respond the moment you entered history. God was not surprised by your existence. Nothing about your life began in divine confusion. This is where the idea of appointed time becomes important. The New Testament often distinguishes ordinary passing time from God's chosen moment. Christ came in the fullness of time, at the appointed moment in salvation history. In a smaller but deeply personal way, your birth belongs to that same pattern of providence. You were born at a moment God allowed, under circumstances God saw, into a story God already understood. So your birth date is more than a calendar fact. It is the public opening of a life heaven already knew. That does not mean we should turn the date itself into magic. Scripture never teaches that. But it does mean your arrival was not random. It was purposeful. God did not begin loving you on the day you were born. He loved you before anyone saw your face. And if your days were written before they unfolded, then heaven's protection was not an afterthought either. Before you were known by earth, you were known by God. Section 3. The Birth Date Mystery and the Limits of Tradition. 400 words. Now we come to the most delicate part of this subject. Some religious traditions, especially later Jewish mystical teachings and certain Christian thinkers influenced by them, proposed that specific angels correspond to specific ranges of dates. In that view, the day a person is born helps reveal which angel is especially aligned with that person's character, struggles, or calling. That idea is fascinating. It also explains why many people speak about a secret behind the birth date. They are referring to the belief that heaven's assignment reflects divine order so detailed that even the timing of your arrival on earth corresponds to the nature of the guardian watching over you. But here we must be careful. That system is not found plainly in the canonical Bible. The names, calendars, and exact mappings belong to mystical tradition, not direct biblical doctrine. They may interest some believers. Others will rightly choose to stay only with what Scripture clearly says. Both responses deserve respect. What Scripture does support is the principle beneath the tradition. Different angels appear with different functions in the Bible. Some announce messages, some guard, some strengthen, some engage in spiritual warfare. Gabriel, for example, appears as a messenger. Michael appears in conflict and protection. Scripture does not flatten all angels into identical roles, so it is fully consistent with biblical theology to believe that God, in His wisdom, assigns heavenly servants in ways that suit earthly callings. In other words, while the Bible does not give us a birth date chart of angels, it strongly supports the deeper truth that your life is not generic, and God's care for you is not generic either. If your journey requires courage, God knows that. If your calling involves suffering, leadership, endurance, mercy, or protection through unusual trials, God knows that too. So, Why your angel? The clearest answer is not hidden in a secret code. It is hidden in the wisdom of God. He assigned what your story required. And why you? Because your life matters to him more than you know. The greatest revelation here is not that you can decode an angel's name from a calendar. The greatest revelation is that before your story ever touched the earth, heaven had already taken your life seriously. That is the secret worth holding on to. Not superstition, not curiosity for its own sake, but the overwhelming truth that divine care was already moving toward you before you knew you needed it. When all of this comes together, the message is both humbling and comforting. Before you were formed, God knew you. Before your first breath, your days were written. Before your life became visible on earth, it was already visible to heaven. And if Scripture is taken seriously, then the protection surrounding your life was not random either. Angels are sent by God. They serve by command, not impulse. They guard according to his wisdom, not chance. So the simplest answer to the question is also the deepest one. Your guardian angel was assigned to you because God chose it. Not carelessly, not mechanically, but intentionally, personally, lovingly. Your birth date, then, is not merely the anniversary of your arrival. It is a reminder that, at a particular moment, a life known by God stepped into history. A story written in his sight began turning visible pages in the world. That does not mean we worship angels. Scripture forbids that. It does not mean we chase mystical systems as though secret knowledge could replace faith. But it does mean we can stand in awe of the God who prepares care before danger appears and who surrounds human weakness with unseen help. So what should you do with this truth? Thank God for it. Thank him for protection you never noticed, for mercy you could not measure, for dangers you may never know were turned aside. And live with awareness. You are not abandoned in the ordinary days of life. You are not forgotten in hidden battles. You are not random in a cold universe. You are known. You are watched over. You are part of a story heaven noticed before earth ever did. Before you took your first breath, God had already moved in love toward your life. And that love has not stopped moving now.